Kia ora, Coach Komi here with an upcoming training cycle, 15-week training cycle leading all the way from August 7th to November 19th. This training cycle, the time domain for this specific training cycle has been chosen because it is the first block of which you should see outside of the CrossFit season. The CrossFit season, for few, not all, or not most rather, is all the way up until the end of the CrossFit Games, and then from there on, everyone should be in off-season mode at that point. Some of you obviously have pretty important competitions that'll be up scheduled for that time of the year. I hope that you've been training hard all throughout the year. Obviously you need to take a break and down-regulate, etc. But we've redesigned this training block just to be the first segment on our block leading up towards the next season, CrossFit Open, quarterfinals, etc. The first highest priority with this 15 weeks is what we want to do to progress forward is to regress back to the foundations. Now, the first note that I want to give you in this block or this little snippet of training is that we want to get rid of the extra things of in our training bag for this training cycle. So we're going to leave the knee sleeves in the training bag. We're going to leave the wrist wraps in the training bag. We're going to leave our belts in the training bag. We're hopefully only going to use one pair of shoes, our Nike Metcons, our Reebok Nanos, or whatever type of CrossFit shoe that you may have. Hey, you don't even need CrossFit shoes to do CrossFit training. But let's look at rebuilding the foundations. Now, first of all, a disclaimer. You may need a certain piece of equipment. You may need a knee sleeve if your knees are a bit janky, for less of a better word, or just for some confidence and helping to promote blood flow in the winter months, things like that, just to warm up a little bit quicker, or just a little bit of compression in the knee just to help stabilize the joint. I understand that. By all means, use the equipment if, and I say if, you need it. Okay, so the priority here is to go back to basics. Let's look at the foundation. Let's rebuild our chassis before we put all the sharp, shiny items back into the foundation. So we want to relearn how to squat with good mechanics, pain-free. We want to learn how to lift without needing extra accessory equipment. But once again, if you really, really need it, then of course you can use it. The one piece of equipment before you get too high on it is your gymnastics grips. You're going to keep them on at all times on the rig or on the rings. Just don't want to rip your hands. For those that have or those that know, you rip your hands doing one too many muscle ups or pull ups or whatever it may be, you could be off the rig for up to 2 weeks. So that's never nice, having to leave a movement and leave it exposed for that long. So please, by all means, if there is a piece of equipment that you do need, use it. The things that we are going to focus on in this training cycle are just our basic strength foundation. So we're looking at our squats and squat patterns. So we're back squatting and front squatting, combination of progressive overload and just traditional strength percentages 3 times per week. Okay, so there'll be a mixture or myriad of both of those, and that's outside of what you'll get in a given Metcon. You'll have a bench press 2 times per week, so we're working on that foundational pressing strength. A deadlift 1 times per week, just so that we don't overload the central nervous system, and we have the ability to recover and still remain able to put the intensity into other components of our training. And then on top of that, we have a ton of weightlifting. The weightlifting, there is all types of movements, all types of positional work that you'll see. There's abilities and capacities every single week to work at a high percentage for a given complex. We'll talk about that soon, but just know that this program specifically is littered with strength work all the way through, and it's a whole 15-week cycle, which will segue into the next 2 priorities of the training program as well, which is one thing that we call shapes, and then the second one, gymnastics development. So just working on our high skill gymnastics. With our gymnastics shapes, what we're looking at doing is multiple times per week, so 2 to 3 times per week, which is an EMOM, or it might just be regular sets for certain lengths of time, holding hollow rocks, Superman rocks, top of dip holds, bottom of dip holds, ring swings, handstand holds, freestanding handstand holds, L-sit holds, hangs, presses, traverses, Russian dips, all of these myriad of training components, but are the foundations of certain shapes and lines that we are looking for that will then build on your high skill patterns, such as your handstand push-ups, handstand walking, ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups, rope climbs. All of these things, all of these great high-flying acrobatic movements begin with the basics and doing the basics extremely well. Yes, there are the gymnastics components and progressions within this training cycle, but just know and remember that there's going to be a ton of not the glorified work, not the stuff that's going to leave you floored after doing a 21:15.9, but definitely this is the time that you need to take to build in these shapes and patterns. Otherwise, you may be one of the athletes that for the last 3 years are being stumped at a certain position in either a qualifying workout, a local competition. Maybe it's the CrossFit Open where you can't do a ring muscle up, so you get there nice and quick. And then Mary from the gym, she gets there 3 minutes after you, and then she completes 4 muscle ups and you get 0, even though you were there 3 minutes prior. Is that an indication of who's fitter? Not that you're racing specifically Mary, but it's just a common theme that tends to reoccur year after year after year. And now is the time to really take control in that 15-week or near 4-month bracket to really hone in and develop some of those things or tools that have been missing from your belt these last couple of training seasons. So on top of that, you got your shapes, you got your gymnastics development. I would say coupled along with it or grouped within that is something that we take of our highest importance and priority with any one of our training cycles is movement economy. Now this is extremely important. Not only just as a training mechanism or as a methodology with it or construct within your training program, and all good training programs should have these constructs and ideologies, but furthermore, if you're looking to advance and excel or accelerate your rate of growth, you need to be getting in with a good coach as well. So a coach can even help you speed up that process of what's specific to you and what component is missing, even though you might be holding these shapes extremely well when you go to do the full dynamic movement. So you've done the segmented portions of the movement, and when you put it together, there may be one key piece missing from that only a certain coach could see, and then help you not only understand and identify that component that's missing, but then also maybe add another tool that can give you another specific movement to work on as a drill that might be the missing piece to your puzzle. So if you're out there and if you're really invested in your personal growth as an athlete or even just as a training participant, if you have the abilities and the means to, get in there with a good coach, get in there with a good gym, and do so. It's going to be the best thing that you could do in terms of investment. Some of the other things that we're looking at building on our thruster, so our thruster 1 rep max, along with just gym rule heavier loads and for certain numbers up to 5 reps with our thruster as well. So that's going to be there once a week on every Friday. What we won't see a ton of is just traditional Metcon. So yes, there are 2 training sessions every other day. It's not all just listed with Metcon. So this is the time of year that we pretty much nearly throw Metcons out the window, at least traditional classical Metcons in that regard. So I think you might be doing 2 to 3 traditional classical Metcons per week if you are an athlete that are completing everything on the program, that is. Otherwise, what you will see, interval work or specific concurrent training work. So when we're working on strength, we are doing strength. We want to retain or adapt the stimulus from that specific component as much as possible. So we're not going to pair a 5 rep max back squat with the 5 kilometer run. They're going to be 2 separated things, probably at either ends of the week or different ends of the spectrum, so that our body can take on that stimulus accordingly. There are multiple sessions throughout the week where you, in the second training session, where you are required to only do a strength session. So you don't have to come in and worry about having to hurt your lungs, or you get to that big red marker on your board. So you've written all your workouts out, you've got your cool, you've got your snatch, you've got your pulls, you've got your squats, and then you got the death by burpee box jump over. You're like, damn, I wish that component didn't lie here. Well, guess what? Some training sessions in this specific training cycle, it doesn't. Because we want to fully engulf ourselves in retaining the adaptation that we want to, or that we can, out of the strength component itself. And that's just an example for various other components throughout the week. Other components, you'll have specific skill, taking the time to actually perform the skill and perform it from basics through to progression to regression. We have mixed modal intervals, so that's kind of how we collect our training or classical CrossFit in a nutshell. So instead of doing just a flat out for time, we might have 4 sets of say 60% of a total workout or 30% of a total workout. You may be required to do it 3 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times with rest in between, which means that we can keep our intensity at this level required for that specific training component, as opposed to hitting it for timepiece and then just dying off a slow death on the hill. So again, for this time of the year, movement economy is the highest priority. Are we going to try and do 30 ring muscle ups at the back end of a 100 calorie assault bike sprint into 50 line facing burpees and then perform good movement patterns? Probably not. So just know that the nuances of what we've combined together will allow you to extremely hone in and focus on the movement patterns or movement economy itself. On a Tuesday, as a second training session, you have the option between A and B based on your perceived weakness. Now, I would recommend that you pick one thing at the beginning and you stick with it all the way through so that you can see the actual development of that construct from start to finish. Now, on the Tuesday, option A will be a 5,000 meter run. The first one is a time trial. It doesn't matter. Don't worry what your time is, whether it's your best time you've ever done, whether it's not, it doesn't really matter. You're going to have 15 weeks to then build upon that 5 kilometer run. If you're quite adept as a runner or you're an adequate runner in terms of the sport of CrossFit or where you think that you want to be at for your own training goals, then the other option is a high skill / weightlifting component that and odd object combination. So you'll be able to stay in the gym. It's about an hour's worth of work, maybe less, and spend high quality amount of time on doing the nuances of the strength, high skill components. Again, no metcon to interfere with your energy given to the workouts that day. On Monday, we'll look at the clean and jerk with no belts, no sleeves, no nothing. So we do percentage work, and then we have a full timepiece where we are required to do a set amount of reps in a smaller time frame at a heavier percentage. This is just to see how the turnaround for you to be able to lift looks like. For example, on week 1, there's a note here that you'll perform, let's say this one. So you've got 5 sets, you've got 2 working sets of clean and jerks at 65%, but you'll perform an extra either clean or the split jerk based on whatever is weaker in terms of your lift. So if you have a 100 kilo clean and you've got a 110 kilo jerk, then you might perform 2 cleans, 1 jerk. If you're the other way around, you'll perform 1 clean, 2 jerk. And this is going to be a common theme throughout the cycle. On a Wednesday, same format with the snatch plus overhead squat. If the overhead squat is a little bit dodgy for you, it will be choose an extra squat or an extra snatch based on the perceived weakness there. We have snatch pulls to go along with that to supplement our snatches. And then on a Wednesday second session, you have a 40-minute plus mixed modal or mixed monostructural. So it's not mixed modal, it's mixed monostructural. Same pathway, same energy system on machines only. So we're using a myriad of C2 bike, assault bike or eco bike or fan bike, rowing machines, ski erg, and some running. Combination of different time lengths, maybe it's intervals of up to 10 minutes, maybe more, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, certain machines. And this is all at certain or specific thresholds. Zone 2 is what a lot of people would call this. For those that don't know, Zone 2, the whole goal here is just to elicit small amounts of blood flow throughout the body, good oxygen uptake and intake, and then to how to utilize that within our body's system to transfer good blood into the muscles and then take away metabolite. Away from there, this is what's going to help you become a better athlete in terms of recovery and oxygen utilization, and then just transferring oxygen to the muscle. That's going to be, just a phenomenal training component for those that have the time. Now, it's usually for those that only have the time, because just find another 40 to 60 minutes to do the slow grinding, not pretty stuff. That's pretty hard to fit in. So if you're looking for bang for buck, and if you're time poor, maybe that is one component that you're slipping off the page, or maybe you're picking it up somewhere else in the week. But if you do and you're able, absolutely you want to put that as a priority. That's an option on the Wednesday as a second session. The other option is a mixed modal component. So if you're not so good at Metcons and more traditional Metcons, you'll have an interval style setup. I'll take a workout, for example, here. Every 5 minutes for 4 sets, 100 double under buy-in, and then 975 power snatch, bar facing burpees. The weight's not heavy. If it's challenging, if it's too challenging and you're not getting any rest time in between those intervals, which you should be, what you can either do is reduce it to 3 sets only, so then you know that you can put an intensity in for a smaller amount of time, or you may decrease the reps to suit that. And we will have handstand walking development every single Wednesday, and there's going to be options for where your capacity may be. It may be that you're at handstand walk ramp, and maybe that you're at a pirouette or some sort. It may be that you are at a large amount of volume of regular handstand walking, and it may be that you're just at the beginning and needed to do an EMOM for 8 to 10 minutes of 5 meters, or you're doing some kick-ups against the wall, or some drills and patterns. So that's what that looks like. On a Wednesday, multiple options here. Rest day, either a catch-up session from something that you may have missed or haven't been able to squeeze in from the week. That's absolutely possible. An aerobic recovery piece. So that's, again, these are all options. One or the other. You don't have to combine them all and put them all together. An aerobic recovery piece, or labeled zone 2. And in this one, let's take a rower, for example. You're asked to change stroke rates. You're asked to read and monitor efficiently, and you're using the data based off of the monitor to control the workout. So stroke rates, damper levels, drag factors, heart zones, those are the things that we're looking out for. There are swim sessions here, so you can definitely get in the water, or an EMOM for 40 minutes. So this is one of our time frames where we do have a 40-minute EMOM, and it's just a collection of reps over a course of period of time of 40 minutes. That they're not so big as sets during its minute worth of work, but the totality will give you a greater number overall. For example, you might end up with 150 toes to bar in a working session, but across the round of 40 minutes, it may not be so much and so much pressure and stress for you. Fridays, front squats. So we're looking at like big strength session, thruster, split jerks, some sort of snatch accessory work. Front squats, and again, that's a strict strength session / weightlifting session. And then you've got some monostructural intervals in a second session, and some mixed modal intervals with some grip strength and kettlebell carries or farmers carries and things like that. So we're looking at building up our grip strength on a accessory component, session 2 Friday. Finally, on a Saturday, Olympic lifting complexes, where every single week you're asked to do a different weightlifting complex. It's going to be an X amount of sets. Again, no sleeves, belts, etc. And then you're governed by getting up to a max load for the day. So that can definitely stay within your control. You're not asked to hit a certain percentage and think to yourself, damn, I can't do that without XYZ piece of equipment. I can get to that whatever heaviest load is, because, well, realistically, it's going to be the heaviest for whatever clothing or equipment that you have for the day. You have deadlifts, and then we have a secondary bench press session, which is actually incorporated into a mixed modal workout. Some gymnastics development. The gymnastics that we are looking for in this workout, in this cycle, pistols. We've dubbed, let's just say, double under crossover skips are in there, but put that in the monostructural, but we've grouped it. Wall facing strict handstand push-ups, wall walks deficits, strict handstand push-ups, ring muscle-ups, bar muscle-ups, variations of rope climbs, and all the good stuff. Session number 2, again, some intervals, some zone 2 stuff, or some repeated anaerobic threshold stuff. It changes and varies just machine to machine. Some higher skilled coupled mixed modal workouts, and then some accessory work, just building our basic shapes. 10 sets, 15 seconds max V-ups, rest 15 seconds, just repeat. Posterior chain work, same thing, barbell good mornings, repeat. And again, in a nutshell, to summarize this, we have a 15-week training cycle. This is our off-season block number 1. This is where we rebuild the foundation, rebuild the chassis before we go and grab all the flashy, shiny items and put them back in the vehicle, and then make it a full race car by the time that next season comes around. So if you're keen on joining the 6'4 Army and what we're doing for our training, we do offer a 7-day free trial, and we absolutely cannot wait for you guys to jump in on board with us, and we'll look to see you on the leaderboard.